Hey, free to play gang, welcome back to another video. Wow, massive changes over here. So I'm just gonna cramp everything into one video for today's video because there are only two Espers to talk about. So the first is gonna be Abigail, who is Frigga, a 5-star Inferno support Esper who assists allies to attack and defend. Now Abigail's first ability, Thorny Brambles, deals damage to an enemy based on the caster's attack, inflicts sleep, heals the caster for a certain percentage of max HP. So she sleeps on her first skill. And ability number 2, Rose Blessing, gains recovery, grants defense up and a shield to all allies based on the caster's max HP and the allies' lost HP. This is pretty interesting. This is also, I think, the first Esper to have this combination of buffs in one single skill. Next, Abigail's third ability, Queen's Gift, over at the Ascension part, increases one ally's AP. If the ally has fallen, revives them first, and then heals a certain percentage of their max HP. I believe the way this works is you revive, then you heal, and then you increase your AP. If that's the case, if this AP push is 100%, this is actually really good. Now if the ally has not fallen, you then reduce this ability's cooldown, and you grant Absorb and attack up to all allies at the same time. This is insane because what Absorb does is basically life steal buff. So a general buff that is not exclusive to her heals buff carriers upon dealing damage. So this is pretty good, right? You have an attack buff, you have an absorb as well, and you have a revive and an AP push all in one kit. So this is definitely very strong. This is a very powerful skill. It's not, I don't think it's incredibly broken, but then again, we will have to see it in action. And obviously the number of ways that you can abuse this one skill, but this, I think it's really good. And here's the source, can only be drawn from the Go Record player or Super Sensors after a certain date, okay? And now, Odette. So Skadi is actually a free Esper that can be obtained from the event shop. So let's take a look at her skill kit here. Odette excels at defense and controls. Now here is her first ability, Ice Lens. Deals damage to one enemy based on an attack, has a chance of freezing the enemy. Okay, pretty good with Avatara over here. Odette's second ability, Ice Barrier, grants cold armor to all allies. Cold armor strength is equal to a certain percentage of her max HP. This is pretty cool. So this is a brand new buff, right? Cold armor. We will obviously talk a little bit more about what it does at the bottom. Oh, and don't forget she's also a Shimmer type here. Now Odette's third ability, Bitter Cold Whirl, down to Ascension, deals damage to an enemy based on her attack. Freezes the enemy which cannot be resisted. This is insane. Gains freeze, immunity and recovery and cold armor to herself, which means that she self-freezes over here. And cold armor strength is equal to a certain percentage of her max HP. Yes, I've talked about this. Now if Odette fails to freeze the enemy, deals additional damage equal to a certain percentage of her max HP. So obviously this only happens when the enemy is immune. So the thing is, she does not necessarily need a lot of accuracy, right? Not on her kit, because all of this over here, it doesn't seem to require accuracy unless you are talking about the cold armor buff over here. So absorbs damage equal to cold armor strength, which means that this is a shield buff. Now when attacked, has a chance of inflicting attack down and speed down to the attacker, and if the attacker is already afflicted with speed down, has a chance of freezing them. This is a really good skill. So I'm not sure how this relates to multi-hitting attacks. I'm not actually sure whether enemies can self-freeze if they multi-attack you, for example. Now that's it for the new Espers. Let's move on to the new features. So there's going to be the new added Sentinel Hunt. So this is going to be a permanent thing, right? And there is this thing called an ultrasonic season which lasts for a period of 3 days. So the thing is, there are different tiers, right? And this is what I understand about this. So the union will give each player 5 entry tickets to challenge these divine servants. And if your tickets run out, you can actually pay to enter again. But this is not really a pay to win concept. It's more of like they are going to take what is your highest score, for example, to tally your current score for your club. So players can deploy Esper squads for each battle. Level 30 to 44 players can only deploy 1 squad. And level 45 to 59 can deploy 2 squads, blah blah blah, 3 squads, right? So a squad consists of 5 Espers and squads join battle one at a time in order. So if one squad loses, the next squad joins. Now each battle will be given a score based on the damage dealt. A season's total score is calculated based on the 3 Divine Servant challenges with the highest scores. Players can claim rewards upon reaching different score tiers such as Supercell Matrices. So here are the 3 tiers of gift boxes. There is a Gift of Courage, Gift of Challenge and Gift of Conquest. You can go ahead and see what there is to obtain over here. A club's total score is the sum of its participating members' score, and when a season is tallied, club points will be sent via mail. So I believe what this means is you will need to bring in 3 squads for yourself. And then your highest score will then be recorded as such, which will then be added into the total club points. At least this is what I understand. Now next, we have new events. So there is the Ruler's Law here. This is basically just your billboard event. There is not much changed over here. I feel like it's pretty much the same as before, except that there is this thing called a defense assessment, which I talked about. So players will face Frigga's test where defense assessment stages adopt special combat systems. So players must clear the stages within a designated number of turns, so that's the catch. And based on their clearing results, they can unlock assessment medals and claim generous rewards. I hope this is more of like a free-to-play mechanic, as in like they're just going to give you a certain number of espers or a certain pool of espers and require you to make the most out of it. If that's the case, then I think this makes a lot more sense in terms of it being an assessment rather than being a relic check. And the rest is pretty much the same as before. Now moving on to Abigail probability up event. So everything seems to be the same as well, except, okay, it's not actually written here, but one thing to note that is probably going to be fixed, that Louis, Tricky, Sally and Raven will always be part of the SSM banner. I don't think they'll be anywhere else. They won't even be in the typical elemental records anymore, I think. Now moving on to Zodiac trials. Okay, so there is this 12 stage thing called the Zodiac trial that increases in difficulty. Each stage has 2 guardians, defeat either of them to clear and unlock the next stage. Now after beating 1 guardian, players can select 1 member from the guardian's team to join their squad as a helper esper. So this is pretty cool. Now clearing a trial grants players Starlight token. During the event, players can collect Starlight tokens to unlock SSM, gold records and other rewards as well. So it's just basically an event currency. And this part, I'm actually not very sure what this is about. I think it just means that you can reset whoever you're facing at the start of each day, for example, right? If you think that whatever that you're fighting against is a little bit too strong. Now next, there is this thing called the Echo Tribute, which I think is pretty cool. Now during the event, spin with gold records at a divine turntable to acquire Echo points, which means that every single summon that you do, you will gain 1 point. And you can redeem Echo points for exclusive Shimmer records, which always grant you epic or legendary Shimmer espers. This is insane. This is going to be the first time we have access to exclusive Shimmer records. I'm not sure how much this is going to cost, but I think it's going to be at least 100 points, I think. Now, points will be erased at the end of the event, so please use all of it, right? And here is the next thing called the Graywater Black Market. So after the update, players can use Nexus crystals to purchase SSM, Shimmer records, reset stones, and other items in the Graywater Black Market. This is basically pay to win. Note, items in the market have purchase limits, so yeah, this is completely pay to win. Okay, moving on. So next is the adjustments and optimization. So basically there is a very big change to the club help system as well. So basically what the new change is, which is insane, is that right now you can use the wish system to wish for specific espers that you already have. And if you're wishing for a rare or an epic esper, you will gain 2 esper ripples each time you get your wish fulfilled. And if you're wishing for a legendary esper, which is meant for dupes, you will gain 1 esper ripple. And I'm not sure how many ripples you will need to acquire 1 legendary esper, but maybe if it's about 100, that will take you about 100 days. Who knows, right? But I think this is a great place to start, definitely. Now next, echo optimization. So this is the part that I wanted to talk about previously, right? So if you haven't obtained an epic esper in the SSM after 19 draws, you will now be guaranteed an epic esper. So they have finally included an epic PT as well. And then, this is the next important part. So if you haven't obtained an epic esper after 19 draws from the Shimmer record player, the next draw will guarantee an epic Shimmer esper. And furthermore, if you haven't obtained a legendary Shimmer attuned esper after 99 draws from the Shimmer record player, the next draw will guarantee a legendary Shimmer attuned esper. What the heck? This is crazy. But take note that for the epic esper, there will be no carryover of PT, but for the legendary espers, those who did perform Shimmer record player draws before the update, the number of draws they have done in the past will then be carried over to this update. So that means that I've probably done about maybe 20 Shimmer draws by now. So that is going to add on to my PT counter. So that's pretty cool. I'm about 20 to 30% away of my first Shimmer legendary. So there is one small change in the online union shop adjustment, which is now that they are making the wish stickers a little bit more useful and a little bit harder to complete as well, they have then increased the shop limit from 1 to 2. And their price has also been reduced from 100 to 50, which means that you're definitely going to buy at least 2 every single day. And I really like this change. So which is sold at 800 club points, open it to select and get Esper Ripples for a non-Shimmer Esper that has been unlocked in your Esper gallery. Basically one of the Espers that you already have. So this is another way for you to get more dupes, and you're obviously going to use this for legendary Espers. Now finally, they have decided to add battle statistics to the Desolate Lands. Finally, hooray! Players can now view each Esper score after a battle. Very nice. And they have finally decided to expand your inventory for your relics as well from 2,000 to 3,000. Thank you so much. Oh my god, this is gonna help me a lot. Now on to some Esper balances. So we are talking about Raven first. Sunset, so this is her second skill, right? There is a new addition to her effect, which is now, if the enemy is not buffed, you increase the damage dealt by 30%. Everything else stays the same. And as for her third skill, Sleipnir, so basically previously there was a requirement in order for you to defense break enemies, right? For 100% chance, of course. But now they have gotten rid of that requirement, so now you guarantee a defense break. And on top of that, each buff dispel increases her damage by 2%, which is okay. But I think overall this is a really good change. So basically if the enemy does not have any buffs to start off with, she is still going to defense break you, which is gonna suck for Temporal Tower, but it's gonna be pretty good for players who already have Ravens. Especially if your team is so fast that you move first, right? So this is a really good thing. And next for JIN YUYAO, this is a buff as well. So previously for her third skill, you just transfer all the debuffs from your allies to one single enemy, right? But now, before transferring all those debuffs to the enemy, you will dispel all buffs from the enemy as well, which probably includes immunity, and upon successful dispelling, reduces the enemy's AP by a further 50%. That is really good. I think with this change in her kit, she's probably a lot more PvP centric because you're going to be able to reduce the AP of whoever's going to move next. And most of the time, I'm just thinking, let's say if the enemy started first and they started landing like controls on your team and all that, that's going to push her AP, JIN YUYAO's AP, up a little bit. And with that, you should be able to use this skill to counter attack and to probably disable their DPS or something like that. I think this is really good. But is this necessarily going to change my opinion of me wanting to move away from JIN YUYAO in the future? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? I will test it out a little bit and then I'll probably give you guys an update on how her new kit works. And yet another buff to Bonnie as well. So previously, this is a kit. She dispels one buff and increases enemy ability cooldowns by 1 turn. And of course, she increases Alice's AP by 5% as well, per the number of dispelled buffs. But now, she has a 50% chance of dispelling yet another buff, which means that she can actually push her allies' AP from 25% to possibly upwards of 50%. This is a very big change. But obviously, this is very situational as well. But it's going to be very useful against Espers with both light above and shield buffs at the start. And to add, her base speed is also pretty high. Now next, believe it or not, we actually have a buff to ARCANA. So Twin Snakes, this is the first skill that has a buff as well. So attacks one enemy, deals blah 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 blah. Okay, so now changed from miss rate up to attack down for 2 turns. And the thing is, I really want this skill to hit twice. I do not know why it's called Twin Snakes, but it only hits once. Now in order to talk about the second skill, Imprisonment, we need to talk about the third skill first. So this is the change. Basically, ARCANA has a little bit of an overhaul, right? So previously attacks all enemies, steals one buff from each enemy, and each buff stolen increases his AP by 30%, which is really good. It's just that the rest of his kit sucks. But now there's a change here which adds an extra effect, which basically 50% chance of inflicting miss rate up for 2 turns as well, which makes him kind of like a mini Tricky of sorts. And now knowing that he inflicts miss rate up on his third skill, we can then take a look at his second skill, Imprisonment. So attacks one enemy twice, each hit has a 75% chance of stunning an enemy for 1 turn, which is the same as before. And when the enemy is afflicted with miss rate up, increases the debuff durations by 1 turn. This is pretty cool. So you're going to extend a lot of stuff. You could potentially be extending stuns, miss rate up as well, and probably even the attack debuff that he has on his kit. But is this necessarily going to change his entire kit for me? I think he is definitely a lot more viable because now he can extend debuff durations, which means that he can be potentially quite useful in maybe Temporal Tower. I think he has quite a good change over here in terms of being a controller. Yeah, I actually feel like he's currently okay. He is not that bad anymore. But the thing is, enemies need to have buffs in order for him to be fully efficient, which is something that may or may not always be useful for you. If they do have buffs, chances are you are already kind of screwed. And then now, KAYLEE. So for her first skill, there is an increase in damage over here by 50%. And dude, her second skill is actually pretty sick right now. So currently, upon a crit, 50% chance of dispelling one buff from the enemy, and you hit 3 times, okay? So you have upwards of 3 chances to remove buffs from the enemy, with a 30% chance of freezing the enemy for 1 turn as well. This is really good. This is a good change. And now Dance of Deluge is going to increase its probability of landing freezers. That's basically it. So essentially, they are just making some of these less used espers a little bit more relevant, right? So for example, you have KAYLEE who's getting a big buff. You have ARCANA as well, getting a decent buff. Bonnie, I feel like she has already been useful, right? So I'm not sure why they want to buff her, but I guess, okay, sure. JIN YUYAO, yeah, I kind of understand because not a lot of players use her. But Raven, really, does she really need the buff? I don't really think so. And that's basically it for the rest of the changes. The rest is just like pack adjustments, right? So just like paid stuff. Anyway, that's it for what is this? 3.1.3, I think. Yeah, that's it for the patch notes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a comment down below what you feel about the patch. What did I miss as well? Did I miss something huge? But I mean, there was some really awesome inclusions as well. Some things that I did not even see coming. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And subscribe for more Dislyte content. Now with that said, this has been Free to Play. And as always, I will see you in the next video.